再びジオンの理想を掲げるために、星のくず成就のために、ソロモンよ、私は帰ってきた。
Solomon model Gp02, aka the Physalis. Coming out a few years ago with a recent reprint, we have one of the best 1/100 representations of the Gp02 to date. If you don't know, the Gp02 is one of the Gundam project suits that were designed after the 1 Year War. The Gp02 was designed to be a strategic fleet destroyer using a nuclear payload, which was banned by the Antarctic Treaty early in the 1 Year War. The suit was stolen by a Zeon survivor named Anaval Gato, who used it to destroy most of the Federation's naval fleet in Operation Stardust. The level of detail and complexity here are only comparable to Bandai's best and most expensive kits, like the Master Grade EX and the Perfect Grade Unleashed line. We get all of this for the price of just a regular Master Grade. And I don't mean a newer complex Master Grade, I mean like an older, cheaper grunt Master Grade kit. The one you see here has had some work put into it. I painted most of the inner frame, as well as added panel lines and used the water slides that were included with the kit. In addition to this kit, I also got the expansion that came with the clear armor parts plus the MLRS pack, which can be used to replicate the mobile suit variation versions of this. The only thing that you can't replicate is the Beam Bazooka version. For the build experience, it was seamless and as simple as any Bandai kit. Interesting aside is the proper head that the Gp02 comes with. The instructions are printed on the inside of the box as opposed to in the instructions. This is clearly done for copyright reasons. However, I don't think it was necessary. I don't think Bandai has any interest in making a new Gp02 Master Grade. Almost every part of this kit was undergated. Parts came with a matte finish texture molded onto them. I believe both of these things were done for the clear armor set, which must have been planned from the very beginning. On the clear set, the texture parts do attempt to give the look of a two-toned finish. The solid color version comes with 2 tones of white, but the clear set it's just full clear for the white armor pieces. It's semi-successful, however it does obscure the beautiful inner frame underneath, so I decided to gloss coat these parts to remove that texture and make it more optically clear. It came out good, however I will say the clear parts are quite fragile in comparison to the solid color, and the larger parts, especially the parts of the shield, do have the risk of breaking. I ended up breaking my largest shield part, and before you say anything, I made sure to use acrylic and made sure to avoid the pegs, as it would, tight fit and everything. So yeah, it's just something to look out for. If you are going to make this kit and you do want to use the clear parts, I'd recommend just sticking to using the clear parts and not taking them off and replacing them with the opaque parts. Starting with accessories that are not on the main suit, we have a couple set of hand auction parts as well as an extra hand part for the left hand. We have these motor blanks, which you can use if you don't want to use the actual motors. The copyright protection head, which could also be used for a mass-produced version, I suppose. These nicely shaped and molded beam sabers and a stand adapter. For the add-on set, you get the 6 missile pods, the 6 missiles, 2 adapters to have them on the backpack, 4 adapter parts that can combine them, the extra backpack, as well as all the clear parts. Now the way the missile pack works, we'll start with the backpack. The main backpack here can be opened up and you can store the nuclear warhead in there if you want. You can also open up this bottom panel here and it will show you all that nice molded detail in there. Both of these arms are articulated, however I'd recommend being a bit careful as there are water slides which can be damaged. I believe this one's already been damaged. Here's the other one on the other side. And they can fold up to make it nice and tight and compact. Now this missile pack backpack can work with the regular bazooka as well as the missile pods. So for the actual missile pods themselves, they have a couple of moving parts. We have the opening door and then we have a venting panel here. Now this venting panel is linked to push the missile forwards, so we'll put the missile in now, and I would recommend being careful with these as these are water slides and they can scratch in here. I believe I've had some scratch already. These are top coated, but even after top coating, you know, they can still get scratched, and there's a little bit of friction in here. As you can see, it closes as it pushes through. So the way it works is you open it up, you pull here, pushes the missile forwards. Very cool. Now the missile pods themselves do have a lot of water slides on them. I recommend just taking a good day or two just to do these, as it really does add to the overall look of the completed model. So the way they work is you can use either these parts to attach it to the backpack and connect the missile pods together, or you can use these parts to connect the missile pods to themselves. So we'll start off by using the missile pods, attaching them to themselves as well as the backpack. So the way it would work is you find the side that will connect. Well, let's actually put the missiles on first. So yeah, all of these do have their own numbers on them. I'm not going to be super particular about getting them correct though. So they just slot on like so. Make sure you have the opening panel on the bottom for the bottom ones so you can still open the panel up. The water slides will be upside down. If you want to have this in particular setup, then of course you can, when you apply the water slides, you can flip them around. I just did them all identically. So use these ones like this and like this. There you go. Now this is ready to go onto the actual pack itself, like that. Now for the actual regular bazooka, I think this is right, you just detach the lower portion here and you can attach it into a peg. Here's the regular backpack for reference. Now there are stickers to replicate kind of like those gem stickers that you get in the Perfect Grade Unleashed. They work okay. They are foil stickers. And then we can attach this back on here. And then all of this can now be attached to the back of the Gp02. Okay, as you can see, it's a bit back heavy. There's a lot of weight here, and it's not exactly balanced to have all of this on here, but you can swing it up. You might want to Try and swing some of this other stuff out of the way. That's about the best I can get it. Unfortunately, all of this weight here is actually pulling in, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend having it set up like this. It's a lot of weight, and I think if you do either the 2 missile pods or just a regular bazooka, looks better. And here it is in a bit of a pose as if it was about to fire. Took a bit of setup, but it does look good. You know, I do think this is the preferred setup for if you are using the missile packs. It does look pretty cool. You can still use the head LED in this mode, and you can still open all the opening hatch gimmicks and everything, which I'll get into in a minute. Now, for those light up gimmicks, it is pretty simple for the most part. On the backpack, you have this part here. You want to remove that part. Now, you might want to use a tool. There is a tool included, but I have misplaced it. Now, here's something that I do want to note. When I was trying to pull this out, it took the silver part with it. That is a little bit of a problem with this kit. There are some parts that do fit a little too loosely. It's not a deal breaker, as you can just put the parts back on, and if it's really a problem you can glue those parts. They're not moving parts, so it's really not that big of a deal. However, if you do want to swap to the clear parts, some of those parts, you might want to thicken up some of the connections or whatever. Anyway, so we've removed the magnet now. It can be a little bit hard to get it to activate, but I did manage to do it. There is a little bit of light bleed around the neck. However, they do include stickers to help block that out. The stickers are applied. However, even after applying the stickers and using a bit of paint to try and block in some of that light, there is still a tiny bit of light bleed around the neck, unfortunately. Now, for the back of the head, looks nice and bright. Now, I will say, this is bright enough that you can still use the optional head, and then you can put it on the new mask. It looks alright. It looks appropriate for a mass-produced unit, but if you combine that with the missile pack, you know, you could have a mass-produced version of your Gp02. Now I'm going to show the bazooka separately because it is quite a cool sequence, I guess. I'm going to keep the magnet off for now, just because I want to turn the lights off later. So, of course, you have the two halves of the bazooka, right? This part does this way up, go on the inside of the shield. You want to push that forwards. Actually, I believe you can also push it back. No, you have to have it pushed forwards. Close up, and this is unlocked, this is locked. Now this can't open, and it's securely in there. Now this is quite heavy. The shield is quite heavy to begin with. With all of this, it is quite heavy. With the bazooka or without, you will still need to rest the bottom of this on the foot area of the actual Gp02, right around here, just because the wrist is not strong enough to hold it up. A little unfortunate, but that is just a part of physics that you have to deal with. So you can fully replicate the scene. Now to turn it on, you have a switch right here, which can't quite hit with your nail, so I'm going to use the beam saber. And now we have the drum rotating, and we have a red flashing light here. take that out so it can actually focus. There we go. Oh, now it's going to walk away. There we go. Now on this side, the switch is right here. And the gold part rotates as well as the silver part on top. There is a gear mechanism in here, so they are rotating the same direction. Yeah, there's a 3 gear linkage in there, and of course this is flashing red. Back is lit up blue. The front of this is lit up orange. Now this is the cool part. So you want to make sure this is lifted up because it will help latch on. And just like the actual OVA, you want to line up these pins into the 3 holes there. And it'll actually go through a firing sequence. This is genuinely such a cool feature of this, that it's able to fully replicate that whole scene. It's so cool, and it just brings this whole kit up just to a whole another level. It is genuinely so cool, and this will keep cycling through the firing sequence over and over until you turn it off. But yeah, just that whole sequence is so cool. Unfortunately, to get the actual batteries for this, it's a bit of a pain. It's a very specific set of batteries, and they come in 2 versions. One version is with the terminals already attached to it. Now, you're not supposed to use that version, however you can just get that and cut off the terminals, and it'll work fine. It'll be a little tighter than the regular ones without the little terminals already attached to it. I believe the batteries originally designed for laptops, so that's why they're very, very obscure, and you might have to order them yourselves. But you can get a pack of them for a decent price, and I think it is well worth it to actually get this. Now, I'm going to turn the actual head LEDs. I'll turn the head LEDs off now, and I'll actually show you. It does have a bit of a, yeah, as you can see, it just powers down. Now, the reason you get a spare left hand is so you don't have to switch out from the hand that's holding the shield. So you can just pop it on if you don't want to have the shield attached. It's very, very thoughtful, despite the fact you have to pop out, fingers. Just something like that is super thoughtful. So I'm going to go over the articulation as well as the opening hatch gimmicks all together now. We'll start off with the backpack. I'm going to do the articulation without it attached, just so it'll be easier for me to go through all the features. So the main arm here can swing up, and you have a rail. You can swing back and forwards. You can also swivel around these 2 points, so you can so you can basically get this in any pose that you want. Now, this isn't enough to hold it up on its own, which is fine. It's heavy, it's got electronics, it's got motors in there. I mean, if you don't have the actual motors, you have parts to fill in where the motors will go. It's great. But yeah, it holds it up just fine. So for the actual opening hatch gimmicks of the actual backpack, we have these panels, which you probably saw before. You have, on this side, you open this door. We're gonna have to use a thing. We can actually slide out this, and the nuclear warhead is a separate piece in there, and it's very easy to drop it and lose it. So I'm not going to take it out, but you can see, just like the original Master Grade, it can still do this. You can replicate it being loaded up, and of course you can remove that and put that in the other backpack. And the last opening hatches on here are these, which they don't open by a lot, but they do expose some inner frame detail. That looks cool. So for the actual suit, we'll go through the articulation. The head is on a ball joint. It's actually on a double ball joint, one at the bottom and one at the top, so you can swing forwards and back. You can look up and down a decent amount, looks up a bit more, can look into its chest quite well, and of course it can swing side to side. Can't quite swing all the way around because of the cuffs area, the collar area and everything. It does clash a little bit. These shoulder pauldrons here, well, back of them, this can swivel around. This whole section can come out on multiple joints. Don't pull it too hard or it will come off. And there are multiple hinges and swivels, so you can get this in any angle that you want. And there is nice exposed details in there. This does not come molded in red, unfortunately, but details there. You can paint it up like I've done. The arms themselves can go all the way around, swivel, can come out and swivel at this joint here. The shoulders themselves do have a little bit of movement up and down. The elbows are double jointed and can curl all the way in, exposing some nice piston details which are molded in red. The cuffs down here are separately jointed so you can get better angles to hold the weapons. Ball joint here. When you move this, the pistons do move inside of the arm. It's not very easy to see, but they do actually move. The torso, this peg joint here, has a decent range up and down. Has a locking connection right here for when you are holding heavy accessories. If you push it in, it will not go towards the back anymore. The hip skirts themselves, ball joints, and regular swivel joint. And you can get out of the way for any pose that you want. Apart from the sides, they are limited, so you can't do a full split, unfortunately. Now, the hips themselves, they do have a few joints in here. You can swing them down to get better kick. However, a complaint I do have is the swing joint here is a little loose, and you will find yourself adjusting it quite often when you are posing this. So I'll swing them down for now so we can actually look at the leg here. Unfortunately, one of these panels did fall off, and there are some loose connections for these panels in particular, and for these panels on the side skirts that hold the beam sabers. You can glue those on just fine, but if you do want to switch between the clear parts or the opaque parts, you won't want to glue them on. I'll probably glue them on after this review. So, for the actual thigh and knee, you can bend the knee on two joints, revealing lots of nice detail that you can paint and pick out. These do come molded in silver and gold. The actual upper thigh joint is on a swivel, and the ankle here is on a couple of joints. It's not easiest to see, but there are a couple of joints in here that allow you to go quite far back, quite far forwards, and you can also curl the feet like that. There's a joint here, so you can move this independently. There are pistons which are all nicely molded. Now, unfortunately, this is one of the looser connections. is this whole part on the back. Again, part you might want to consider gluing. You would still be able to switch out the clear parts even if you glued that. Right, so that's the actual articulation of this. And the joints themselves are pretty decent. But they do struggle a little bit with some of the accessories, just with how heavy it gets, especially the swing joint for the hips there. Just because of how much weight ends up on it up here, it can be a bit of a struggle for it. But it does stand just fine. It will go on a pose and everything. It can go on the actual stand and everything. It works. Unlike some of the connections, but for the most part they do work. It's just if you do push them a bit too far, they will come off, unfortunately. Now I'm going to go into the opening hatch gimmicks, and there are a lot of these, so for the sake of time I am probably going to go through and open them all off camera, and I'll come back with them open and I'll point out all the nice details that are being revealed. Alright, I want to resume to show you the final opening hatches, because they are genuinely some of the coolest parts of this. So for the actual back panels here, if you pull up, which I'm going to get this in frame better, there we go. So if you pull up here, this gold part actually extends by pulling on this here. Really cool. And then for the actual boosters, you have, of course, you can get everything swing open like this. Now if you pull down, the inner one is linked to this one, so it does actually open like in the actual show or OVA. And then if you pull here, okay, so it would appear that this panel here, you might want to just pull this out manually, because it is a little bit too much stress for this mechanism. So if you pull that out and then pull this, it should open just fine. There we go. And now I might have just said that in the instructions and I completely ignored that, but it's my bad. So pull that up. You can open this. Pull this down. Oh, that panel just came off. Again, the fact they designed this to be able to do the clear option part, I think it sacrificed some of the stability so you can switch them out. Again, I recommend just picking one, gluing some of these armor parts on. There we go. Let's try it again in focus. To push it closed, I recommend pushing it up like that. There you go. And then like that. There we go. And you can pull this out. And then this one does pull out. This one automatically extends with this mechanism. Now I'll show you the beam sabers before I forget. They do just slide in and out of here just fine. Just put this one back here. And they hold in the hand decent. You do have to get it in the sweet spot for it to hold it more securely. There you go. Does look quite vibrant. So the shield can open up to vent. So we're gonna move you out of the way so we can get this all in frame. You want to pull ideally on these two parts here, and like that, and it reveals all this beautiful detail. Of course, you will have to paint a lot of this. The reflective parts are stickers, but everything else is grey, so you will have to paint it to pick out the details. And it is a shame that this centerpiece is so fragile with the clear parts. Now you can open the sight part on the bazooka. It's not exactly like the anime, it's square instead of round. That's the only part that isn't accurate to the anime. So you want to be careful with the V-fin here. I'd recommend just tilting it to the side. And you're basically just manipulating all these joints to work for you. Once you get them just right, you can, in fact, line up the trigger finger, all of that, and then the final step will be to attach the shield. Now you are going to have to rest the bottom of the shield here on the foot, and there we go. It was a bit of a process to get here, but oh my god, it is worth it. It is so damn worth it. This whole kit looks so good once finished. Let's pull it out of here. There we go. And the fact you can recreate the shot, you know, especially with the whole bazooka coming apart and with the motors and everything. Oh my god, it is so cool. But for the actual open hatches and everything, you can see there's a lot of detail that's been exposed, and it does look really good like this. You know, you could use this as a centerpiece, to be honest. That's how good this looks. Some of these panels do have a bit of articulation, so you can get it in just the right pose that you want. However, I think it looks fine as it is, you know, as intended, should I say. For the details that aren't painted out of the box, you know, that are just either this gunmetal or white, it looks fine. However, there's so much beautiful like greebling and everything. I do recommend it is worth painting, you know, just putting in a bit of extra effort. You don't have to do a full repaint. You know, I only did like a detail repaint. I did dry brush the inner frame, the gunmetal parts. You can't really tell. It was a very light dry brush. So there you have it. What could be model of the year for me if you take price into consideration. An amazing showing by a third-party company, which I hope to see more of in the future. Of course, under a different name. Hope you enjoyed this review, and it helped you make a decision on whether to pick one of these up for yourself, if you can find one, that is. If you want to see more, then hit the subscribe button. Links for commissions in the description down below. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Bye bye.